history tells an inspiring story of God's power and victory, the story of the people of the elephant. There were numerous great events and divine signs that occurred before the prophetic mission, and one of the most prominent events that took place prior to the birth of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his prophethood was an incident that befell the Kaaba, which Allah mentioned and recorded in the Qur'an. So what was this incident? It occurred in the month of Muharram, about 50 days before the birth of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, which corresponds to February of the year 571 CE. Let us explore this eternal saga in which Allah preserved his sacred house from the aggression of the people of the elephant. The books of Sirah mention that Abraha the Ashram was the deputy of the Negus in Yemen. He saw the Arabs making pilgrimages to the Kaaba and venerating it, which displeased him, especially since he was a Christian. He wanted to restore the power and importance of Christianity by diverting the people from the Kaaba. So he built a grand church in Sana'a and named it al-Qulais, adorning it in a way that would dazzle the eyes and captivate the hearts, taking great care in its decoration. Once Abraha completed the church, he wrote to the Negus saying, "I have built for you, O king, a church that has no equal among the kings who came before you, and I will not rest until I divert the Arabs' pilgrimage to it." A man from the tribe of Kinana heard what Abraha had said about his intention to divert the Arabs' pilgrimage to the church of al-Qulais instead of the Kaaba, so he went at night and desecrated the church, spreading filth on its walls. When Abraha saw the church in that state, he became enraged and asked, "Who did this?" He was told, "A man from the Arabs, from the tribe that the Arabs perform pilgrimage to its house in Mecca." At that, Abraha swore to demolish the Kaaba. Abraha prepared a vast army of about 60,000 soldiers, 13 elephants leading the charge, one of which was called Mahmoud. He then set out toward Mecca. A man from the nobility of Yemen named Dunafur rallied his people, stirring their passion and calling on the people of his land and other Arabs to fight Abraha. However, he could not stand up to him, and he and his people were defeated and taken captive by Abraha. Some Arab tribes tried to resist Abraha out of their zeal for the sacred house of Allah, but all were defeated and returned in disappointment. Abraha reached Al-Magmas, he sent a man from Abyssinia named Al-Aswad bin Mufassud on horseback to Mecca to bring him the wealth of the sacred sanctuary, including 200 camels belonging to Abdul Muttalib bin Hashim, the chief of the Quraysh at that time. The tribes of Quraysh, Kinana and Hudhayl considered fighting, but soon realized they could not resist Abraha and thus refrained from doing so. Abraha sent a man named Hunata to Mecca to inquire about its leader. He said, "I have not come to fight you, but to demolish the Kaaba. If you do not fight me, I will not harm you." Abdul Muttalib responded, "We do not seek battle. This is the house of Allah, and if Allah wants to protect it, He will do so." At that, Hunata asked Abdul Muttalib to accompany him to meet Abraha. Abdul Muttalib was one of the most handsome, noble, and dignified people. When Abraha saw him, he respected and honored him, descending from his throne to sit beside him on the carpet. Then he said to his translator, "Tell him, what is your need?" Abdul Muttalib replied, "My need is that the king returns to me the 200 camels he took from me." When Abraha heard this, he said to his translator, "I was impressed by you when I first saw you, but now I have lost respect for you. You speak to me about 200 camels, while I have come to destroy the house of your religion and the religion of your forefathers, and you do not speak of it." Abdul Muttalib answered, "I am the lord of the camels, and the house has a lord who will protect it." Abraha then said, "No one will stop me from demolishing the Kaaba," and he ordered the camels to be returned to Abdul Muttalib. Abdul Muttalib returned to the Quraysh and told them what had happened. He advised them to seek refuge in the mountains and valleys of Mecca to avoid the harm of Abraha's army. Then Abdul Muttalib went to the Kaaba and clung to its door, with some of the Quraysh men accompanying him in prayer, asking Allah for protection and victory and to save them from the army that had come to destroy his sacred house. Fear struck the hearts of the people of Mecca, and they fled to the mountains of Mecca, taking their children, elders, and women with them, terrified of the wrath of Abraha and his army. They stood on the mountains, watching to see what would happen. When Abraha reached Al-Magmas, a place near Mecca, he prepared his massive army, with the elephant Mahmoud leading them, and marched toward Mecca, determined to demolish the Kaaba, indifferent to its sanctity and holiness. When they reached the valley of Muhassir, between Muzdalifah and Mina, the elephant knelt down and refused to proceed toward Mecca. Whenever they directed it toward the south, north, or east, it obeyed. But when they turned it toward the Kaaba, it knelt and refused to move. While they were in this situation, Allah sent upon them birds in flocks, each bird carrying 3 stones, 1 in its beak and 2 in its claws. These stones hit every soldier, causing them to be torn apart and destroyed. In moments, Abraha's soldiers scattered in all directions, exhausted and diseased. Allah sent illnesses such as smallpox and measles upon them, which had a severe effect. Abraha himself grew weaker and weaker until he eventually died in Thus, the incident of the people of the elephant became a turning point in human history, revealing God's power and care for his sacred house. It was a precursor to the birth of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who came with the message of monotheism and justice. This extraordinary event heralded the end of the era of polytheism and oppression and the beginning of a new era in which the Kaaba would be honored as the qibla for Muslims and the site of the Hajj pilgrimage. It also marked the prophetic mission of Muhammad, peace be upon him, as a great sign that illuminated the darkness of ignorance and spread the light of truth and mercy among the nations.
In
the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Compassionate.
ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل
Have you, O Muhammad, not seen how your Lord dealt with the owners of the elephant?
This refers to the army of Abraha, who attempted to destroy the Kaaba with elephants.
ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل
Did he not make their plot go astray?
Despite their powerful plans, God rendered their efforts futile.
وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل
And he sent against them birds in flocks.
Allah sent flocks of birds to confront them.
ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل
Striking them with stones of Sijjil.
The birds threw stones made of baked clay as a form of divine punishment,
فجعلهم كعصف مأكول
And made them like eaten straw.
The army was completely destroyed, like hay that has been consumed, leaving no trace of them.
These verses describe how Allah intervened to protect the Kaaba from an army that sought to destroy it, using miraculous means to thwart their plans.